Hi, everyone. How's it going? Welcome to another Rockerbox webinar. Happy to see people joining us here today. I'm going to give it just maybe 1 or 2 more minutes to let people join since it's just now 2 o'clock. And then we're going to get started with our presentation today. So while we're waiting, Sam, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. We've been using Rockerbox for quite some time, so I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, and we've just started picking up these partner webinars, and it's been really cool to just hear from different people in our partner ecosystem about the ways they leverage Rockerbox and just beyond about what they do.
Yeah, totally. I'm excited to dive into some things. Just let me know when you want to start.
Yeah,
Cool.
and just to everyone who is here already, if you have any questions, just drop those into the chat on probably the right of your screen. I'm not sure exactly how yours is set up, and we'll get to those. If it's topical, we'll get to it right away, or we'll wait till the end for other questions.
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's 2:02. A replay of this will go out to anyone who joins later. So I'm going to go ahead and kick us off. By way of introductions, I'm Maggie Tharp. I'm the product marketing manager here at Rockerbox. I work pretty much cross-departmentally with our product team, our CS team, marketing, of course, and sales to best position and launch our features. And one of the favorite parts of my job is getting to sit on these webinars with our partners and learn a little bit more about them and just chat back and forth. So, Sam, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me again. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So, just if you want to flip us forward just one slide there. Just a quick overview of Rockerbox for anyone who's not familiar joining us here today. Rockerbox is a platform that uses first-party data and multiple measurement methodologies to help brands get a full, realistic, and holistic look at the impact of their marketing so they can make better spend decisions, better optimization decisions, and just basically scale their marketing and succeed. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our guest today, Sam, to tell us a little bit about you, what you do, how you learn about Rockerbox, and then move into the topic of the presentation today.
Great. Well, I appreciate the intro. So basically what I just want to go through today are some strategies that we use at my agency to scale brands and basically improve ROAS. They are a little black hat in most cases. They're not necessarily the things that Facebook and Google are kind of shoving down a lot of brands' throats right now. But without further ado, my name's Sam Piliero, as Maggie introduced me before, founder of the Moonlighters, and we focus specifically on women's brands in the wellness, beauty, and fashion categories. Previously worked at BarkBox and was a growth director at VaynerMedia, which I think a lot of people might know Gary Vee's agency. And if you're in the direct consumer world, you've probably heard, or if you have a dog, you've probably heard of BarkBox once or twice before. So these strategies that we're going to go through helped us launch and scale brands of all sizes, which is why I want to highlight this mid to small size brand. First, this is a fashion boutique. In the first 90 days of launching, we helped increase their ROAS 22% and scale their total revenue in 90 days by 47%. And then again, all of 22 increased their ad revenue by 90%, while the whole market was down 15 to 30%. I did the same sort of thing on the Facebook side with a brand called Glam Squad. This is a beauty service brought to you kind of brand. So they'll do blowouts and nails, makeup, hair on demand in major metros. Facebook, we saw a 158% increase in ROAS in 3 months and a 335% increase in purchases. I know this sounds like a little too good to be true, but we're going to dive into how exactly we do this. And most of it's just using strategies that don't waste the money that we're kind of plugging into these systems. So some things we're going to cover are exactly when to run ads with specific time and day adjustments to budgets and bids, how to forecast conversion rate, which is going to actually inform us how and when we want to spend our money. So we're spending money when the customer is most likely to convert, which should, of course, improve your ROAS, increase total revenue, right? These major metrics that we're looking at every day. And then third, stopping the wasting of money that's going on right now in these broad audiences, broad match keywords, And this is still totally applicable even after iOS 14.5. 2021 was a tough year for Facebook. 14.5 hit and a lot of brands struggled. But there's still some really good ways that just get to be a little bit more lean about it. Sometimes it takes a little bit more effort. I mean, always it takes a little bit more effort, but truthfully, like, this is the reality that we have to live in with these platforms, and it's just super important that we actually take the time to find what audiences work and not just run these mega broad audiences that sort of Facebook and Google are, again, just like pushing on us and pushing on us. And the last thing that I'm going to go through, which I'll share with everyone, is an automated bot that we use. So this is just a script that's in the Google Ads system, and we want to get rid of specific search terms that I'm just calling bad in this case. They're really these close variant terms that essentially are just being way, way too far expanded on. So Google's doing things like, if you're searching for a computer mouse, they're showing up on keyboards, right? Might be a related product, but it's not necessarily the search term that you're actually plugging in. And it's causing a ton of wasted spend, sometimes upwards of like 20, 30% of your total spend could be on this. So this is for you. If you're spending at least $500 a day in advertising, I think it's safe to say, based on the Rockerbox audience, that most brands here are probably spending a bare minimum of $500 a day across paid social, paid search, and whatever else it may be. But this applies, as I just showed you from a few of the brands that we've worked with, this applies to brands that are spending upwards of $20,000 a day. It's totally fine. These strategies just are a little bit harder when we're not spending enough money. Also, super important that this is for you if in 2022 and the start of 23, your cost of advertising has increased compared to 21 and results have gone down, right? So we're spending more money, we're making less money, obviously not what we want to happen. And you drank the Kool-Aid a little bit from Facebook and Google. We're running these broad audiences, broad match keywords. If your account looks simpler than it did 2 years ago, then I would definitely focus in on some of these strategies because you'll probably be able to save a lot of wasted money. Cool. So there's 3 problems right now in the market. First is, sort of covered this a little bit, but pandemic hits and we see a massive increase in competition on Facebook and Google. Then couple that with iOS 14.5, everything gets harder to track, which of course is the great Rockerbox plug here. Really, truly, like, platforms like this are what make like these solutions and this measurement actually possible, and strategies that we're putting in place actually trackable, which is critically important, of course. And then the third thing that's the biggest problem right now is that everyone's doing the same thing, not just consultants or agencies or specialists or whatever, but basically all brands are doing the same thing. And I love this image because we're all expected to do the same thing and get better results than the other competitor. And it really doesn't make sense, right? Like, I love to use analogies of like the gym or sports, where if you're working harder, you're most likely going to get a better result than the other person. So if you have a different strategy in place, which is, again, what we're going to go through a little bit, you're way more likely to take one step ahead of your competitor. And just, yeah, again, these are just hyperinflating the same, everyone's doing the same thing. So we're just hyperinflating the market over and over. Okay, so the old way, which we've discussed a bit already, is we're running ads 24/7, 365. We're not really making adjustments to our spends on a daily basis. We're just kind of saying, okay, performance is good, we could push it up a little bit, or there's a sale, let's spend, an extra couple $1,000s a day, whatever it may be. We're running broad audiences in Facebook and we're running broad match keywords in Google. So there's a new way and there's a better way, and we want to revert back to 2012. And this sounds like super long ago. I can't believe it's actually a decade ago. But basically, if we look at the strategies we were using between 2012 and 2016, it was a lot more rule-based in Facebook and Google. There was way more adjustments that were going on, and some of those are the ones I want to focus on now. So the first thing is we want to create a strict schedule with time of day adjustments based on when your customers are likely to convert the most, right? So the simple bracket here is spend less and earn more. How we do this, it's pretty simple. We just want to look in the ad platforms sort by hour or day of the week, depending on how much data you have, and then adjust rules in the Facebook or Google platforms to actually increase or decrease your spend during the hours or days that are better or worse for you. Next thing is we want to double down on exact match keywords. So again, Google pushing and pushing broad match keywords. If we just really focus on taking all the good search terms and making them exact match and having a pretty complex exact match setup, we're going to stop wasting money on terms that are just a little bit too irrelevant for our brand that we know aren't going to convert. A great example, we just had a call yesterday, a brand, it's in the bedding industry, and we noticed they're wasting about 5 to 10% of their total Google ad spend on how to fold fitted sheets. That sounds like a crazy thing, but it's just a common term, and they sell fitted sheets. So they're losing literally like thousands of dollars in potential revenue, or let's say hundreds of dollars in spend that they could be spending elsewhere to make thousands of dollars in potential revenue. And it's crazy. I know some people get a little frustrated with Google and things like this, but ultimately, like, we can't make the rules. We just have to figure out the best way to work around them, essentially. The third thing that's really, really important is we need to lean into first-party data. So we need to leverage literally everything possible. So whether that's syncing your data with Rockerbox, syncing your data from Klaviyo, or whatever email service provider you're doing, well beyond the Facebook and Google tags and pixels, we need to make sure we're actually matching data back to the platform. And this little graphic on the bottom here is just what happened with a brand we launched in mid-October. So we took on this client around October 15th, just a few days to work out some kinks. And then on October 20th, I think, according to that little spike there, is when we started to see purchases go up. We saw a 240 or 239% increase in purchases versus the previous 59 days. So it's just massive changes by just focusing on eliminating the wasted spend where we know it's least likely to convert, and actually just putting that to where it's, of course, most likely to convert. Cool. So sort of went through a few of these already. I should have broken these out a little bit better here, Maggie, so that's my fault. But again, we just want to spend money when they're most likely to convert. And a simplified example of this, which I already explained a bit of, this is a Google account, and by day of the week, which on the left side, we have our cost, which appears to be pretty even by day. This is looking at a full year. And if you look at the red squares here, we have conversion rate on Fridays and Saturdays, which are the bottom two brackets, are upwards of 5%, or low at 5%, where Monday through Thursday, it's 6%, 7%, 7%, 7%. So if we're able to spend money Monday through Thursday, when conversion rate is at 7% compared to Sunday or Friday, Saturday, Sunday, when conversion rate's at 4.5%, 5.8%, and 5.2%, it's pretty clear that we're just going to straight up get a better return, right? The next thing here is advertising to people who aren't remotely interested in your product. And this is back on that broad match keywords. So I don't have the sheet example here, which is probably a better example, but this one here, this is a brand that sells hats that we work with. On the right side, they have the keyword summer hats. And on the left side, for whatever reason, Google thinks summer head or Sunday afternoon are fair enough search terms to match to both summer hats and sun hats. I think it's pretty clear this is just straight up wasting cash. We should not be spending on these terms, but Google's basically just saying, we don't care. We want to spend your budget. We need to make our money as much as you need to make your money. And then on a similar note, we've seen the last few years this rise of close variance. So basically, exact match keywords aren't truly exact, and this goes for phrase as well. So you used to bid on an exact keyword. Let's just say, again, it was hats, and you would guarantee that the only term you were actually bidding on was hats. But now in this case, you're in a scenario where you have the ability to expand on that term. Now, this is a phrase match example, but the same goes as before. We have straw beach hats hitting on Sunday afternoon Islander straw hat. We don't even include the word beach in there. There's a big gap that's being formed by these close variants. And that's exactly why we created this script. So we worked with a partner on the script, but basically what it is, if you can see this, I know this might be a bit small, but the first thing it does is it takes a list of all the keywords in the account. Next step, it takes a list of all the close variant search terms in the account. So everything that you're potentially don't want to bid on, right? Anything that's a little bit further than the exact match. And then it creates a negative list of all of the terms that don't match the exact match that you've already set up in your account. And then it sends you an email directly with all of the terms it suggested. So you'll see in this case, we only have 9 negative keywords were added. If you run this for the first time, I guarantee you have something along the lines of 20, 30,000 negative keywords that it finds historically in your account. And then it's obviously just your job to sift through those and figure out which ones don't match. And there's also some variables on this script that we could adjust. For example, misspellings could be eliminated from the script and so on. If anyone does want this script, I know pretty much everyone will have my email on this call, but it's sam@themoonlighters.co.co. Happy to share and send that around.
And Sam, we had a question we might want to just address right now from Dan.
Yep.
Phrase match work in Google Ads? I know exact match is close match variance.
Yeah. So Dan, that's a good question. I think. Oh, sorry. I'm answering it. I didn't realize what was going on. Yeah. So the close phrase match right now, the problem is previously it was just exact match close variant. Phrase match now has these close variants that are even more expansive. And yeah, just so your point, I did sort of address this before. So that script you can create for phrase match and you can modify it, or you can create for exact match and modify it for phrase match if you want to also.
Okay, awesome.
Cool. Broad match audiences, this is where things get a little sketchy with Facebook. So you've probably been on the phone with Facebook reps in the last, every month they call you. And basically what's happening right now is we are kind of giving this ultimatum from Facebook. They're saying, hey, just run these huge, mega broad audiences, either hit on 300 million people, basically the whole addressable US, or target 30 million people, which is high intent. So we try to find a good way in between these. It's good to have some broad audiences in place, but they shouldn't be all you're running. And that's basically what accounts are shifting to. They're running Advantage Plus or Tailored Plus, whatever your account is eligible for. So what we want to have a mix of high reach, low CPM campaigns that are, again, like the 300 million addressable audience targeting for conversions. And then we need to have these small 10, 20, 15 million size audiences, even less, 2 million, 500,000 size audiences that have higher intent and ones that leverage our first party data. So this is super critical, important here. Like this is top of the line. We can't just rely on the Facebook pixel, right? We have to use our CRM. We have to use other touch points, no matter what tools or integrations you're using. We need them all to flow into the ad platforms. And then of course, we are able to dedupe a lot of the data with platforms, again, like Rockerbox, which is why this is all extremely helpful. And I like to compare this to like a sheep versus wolf mentality. Everyone's like hurting. They're just all these big flocks of businesses that are doing the exact same thing. And then there's the few wolves out there that are actually using different strategies, leveraging all of the data that they have available. And they might only get 20, 30% better than their competition, but compounded over months and months, it's the big difference maker. It's going to make one brand go from, plateauing in 2 years to growing 30%, 40% year over year and actually being a major player. And there's my sheep image here. Okay. So just to recap, some common approaches: spending money when your customers are least likely to convert. And the new, better way is we want to create ad schedules with automated rules to spend when customers are most likely to convert. It's super important. We're using broad audiences in Facebook to hit their revenue goals, not yours, right? We're actually just letting Facebook spend all of our money and I'm sure they're thinking about this. They want to inflate their stock price as much as possible. Where on our side, the better way is we want to advertise in small cohorts, individual interest targeting, 5 to 10 million in audience size, and leverage as much first party data as possible. So we actually know that these groups are most interested in your product. And then on the Google side, we just cannot spend money on searches that basically don't actually target the right product anymore. This is marketing 101, right? We're just spending on the wrong terms, and it's sort of been acceptable, which is why I think like Maggie, you did such a good job of like promoting this webinar and said some things that like use strategies that were used back in 2015 or something like that. And I think it's so true, because if you literally look back at any account 5 or 10 years ago, you would never see an account that just runs to every single person and doesn't have any sort of fluctuations in their spend. But I would bet that most accounts right now have very standard schedules, spending borderline within 10% of the same budget every single day, and using broad match keywords and broad audiences. So it's been such a huge shift, despite these platforms originally being built for, this complexity and rules that were helping everything be set up. So I want to hand over to Maggie, and I appreciate a few questions that came through. So if anyone else has questions, I'm happy to answer in a few minutes.
Yeah, definitely feel free to drop more questions in. I am assuming, just as I was, everyone is just intently focusing on the presentation, because that was really great.
Thanks.
A lot of good information, but if you have those questions now, drop them in. And I'm now going to try to gracefully as possible transition to sharing my slides here. So bear with me for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
All right, here we go. Ooh. Let's see, I want to make sure I can see you guys and also see my screen, and that may not be possible. So Sam, I'm just going to rely on you for any questions or issues with visibility that you have through there. So can you see my screen okay?
Yeah, it looks good.
Awesome. Okay. So now we're going to tie all this back to Rockerbox. Sam gave us a few shout outs during the presentation, but we want to make sure that you all know, that there's kind of a complement to everything that Sam presented, which is how to track this on the back end, how to see, once you've made these tweaks, how to monitor performance and continue to improve your campaigns based on data. And so we're going to walk through step by step how people do this with Rockerbox, specifically 2 views that our customers use to make these daily optimizations to their campaigns, and why these views are effective. So the 2 reports that people use most of all to that they look at on a daily basis to make tweaks to their campaigns are going to be the platform reported performance view and the attribution report. So this platform reported performance view essentially gives you all of your channel metrics that you would go into each individual platform to find, and delivers them to you in one location where you can toggle between all of them. So first off, it's just saving you all that time to have everything in one place. And within Rockerbox, you can look at performance at the higher channel level, at the campaign level, and even down to the ad set level. And what you do in there is identify any extreme outliers, look at, do I have any campaigns that are performing especially well or especially poorly that I might want to make adjustments within each channel. And, when you get to that view, you have this high level overview where you're seeing the whole channel, and you can monitor spend and conversions and any dips and rises there. And then if you scroll down, you would see a more granular view of each campaign and each ad set as well. And the next view that people look at is this attribution report. So what this does, this really kind of highlights one of the big benefits of using Rockerbox, because it gives you a full view of the impact of all of the channels that you use across all of your marketing. And it's giving you a deduplicated view. So what that means, and Sam talked about this just a little bit, when you look at a platform and you look at the data from there as far as your marketing performance, you're only able to see that platform's data. They're not able to see the impact of all of your other marketing. So in Rockerbox, you're able to see all of that information, and you're able to see the realistic impact that each platform had on conversions, based on whichever attribution model you're choosing, whether that's last, first, even weight, or multi-touch. And the attribution report is the location where you can see all of that in Rockerbox. So it's really just like a central dashboard that a lot of people choose to look at on a daily basis to see the performance of your entire strategy across the board. And what we're looking at there is a user level report of just the impact of all of your channels. And just like the platform reported performance view, you can see it at a high level and then down to a channel and campaign and ad set level as well. So this is where you would be able to see the performance of all of your channels and maybe make adjustments within your budget across different channels. So yeah, those are just two views within Rockerbox that people use to monitor their performance and then find different ways to optimize, maybe spending less on a campaign that's not performing so well or spending more on one that's really outperforming. So with that, I'm going to, and this is also a view of kind of that drill down, the information that you would see within the attribution report. All right. And that was just a really quick overview of just a few views of Rockerbox. If you'd like to learn more, feel free to reach out for a demo and we'll be happy to set one up for you, talk about your unique goals. And I'm going to pass it over to Sam to talk about this offer as well.
Maggie, real quick, I think you got a question from Zach here just a minute ago. Wanted to know if both of those views that you just showed are available in the starter.
Yes, they are. There may be some small aspects that are not available to starter, but both those views are in starter.
Cool. Yeah. Okay. So I'll just, you can just keep sharing here if you don't mind, but basically anyone that wants to work on some of those more cumbersome strategies that we talked about and just wants to really just chat for a little bit, our calendars are open. So if anyone wants to chat a little bit more, definitely open to it. We did save 2 spots for a mid-April launch if anyone is looking for an active agency. But of course, there's some, qualifications. We need to make sure that, the client's able to scale and ready to actually move forward, and most likely is working in the women's beauty, fashion, and wellness categories, which I know might only be a select few people on this exact call. So yeah, prior to launch April 10th, usually it's about 4 to 6 weeks of a wait here. We just worked with Rockerbox to save a few spots, and then a no onboarding fee start, which is normally $5,000. So just a nice little kick there, but that's really it. I really appreciate all the time.
Yeah, thanks everyone. And I think, does that wrap up our questions? Yeah, it looks like that is the rest of our questions for today. Yeah, thanks everyone. We will send out a replay so you can review this or send it along to anyone else who needs to see this information. Thank you. We'd love if you have any thoughts afterwards or questions or ways we can make these better, feel free to reach out to us at any time. Or just go ahead and get one of those demos at rockerbox.com/demo. Sam, thank you so much for joining me today. This was great.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, I think
right.
you have a couple questions actually. Or just one from Zach. This tends to happen right at the last.
It always, yeah.
Do you mind if I jump in?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, cool. So Zach here says, any tips on how to increase volume on Google campaigns that aren't spending to budget? So depends on the bid strategy. I would take a look at, so if you're using a target ROAS or a target CPA strategy, my first thing is to just raise that target, or rather lower that target. So give it a little bit more room to actually spend to basically hit a certain target. For example, if you need a 100% ROAS or a 1x ROAS, and you're currently saying, I need to hit a 1 ROAS, but it's not spending, just say you need a 75 or a 0.75 ROAS for like a week and let it start to get those learnings in. And as long as it starts to be floating around that 0.75, maybe 0.8, 0.9, then push it back up to 1. If you're using a more manual strategy or really haven't seen any traction, move to a manual CPC strategy. or a max clicks strategy, and that will just get automatically, you're guaranteed to like be part of the auction, and your actual relevance, your ad relevance, won't be factored in as much. It's just more about, you know, getting your volume in and seeing if your click-through rate and those vanity metrics are actually important, and Google will take that all into consideration. Cool.
Awesome. Thanks, Sam.
Yeah. Any other questions before we jump from here?
Yep. Final chance here for questions. Looks like that was it, I think. Okay. All right. Well, thanks everyone. Have a great afternoon.
Cool. Thanks.